Welcome back to Caffeine Confessionals. We are here to talk to a modern day challenge legend. My name's Allan and Zoe. I'm joined by the lovely Zoe Trimboli from Vermont. And with us today, the first man to win an elimination on the Challenge USA. One of only 6 men in challenge history to win 4 eliminations in a season. The only man in challenge history to win 2 mercenary eliminations, Kyland Young.
Yo, wow, what an intro. I'll take it. Oh, there's the snippet for me. Yeah, so wait, 6 of us, 4 eliminations. How many individual eliminations? Is that just me and Chris and Derek, or is there somebody else I'm missing?
It's you, Chris, Derek. Yeah, for individual eliminations, for sure.
I'll take it. No, but who's counting?
Some of us are counting.
That sounded really cool. No, I'll take it. Thank you.
And
I'll take that before we add all the asterisks for people to be like, but what about that?
I gotta ask, are you wearing the same shirt you wore in all your confessionals this season?
I am. I'm a branding guy. I was like, you know what? Let's keep it consistent. This is the confessional outfit, confessional podcast. Let's keep it consistent.
We appreciate that.
I like that people see the shirt like, oh, this is the real Kyland. This isn't
exactly.
This isn't some guy they paid off the street.
Yes, that was the main for verification, identity verification purposes. This is the main reason.
So, Kyland, you're here today in part because you just lost the challenge. Plain and simple. But you're doing the rounds. You're doing all the conversations. We're going to get a little bit more into that, but we want to just know, how are you doing as a human, and what is life outside the challenge like for Kyland Young?
Ooh, well, as a human, I'm doing pretty well. I woke up today. Someone said, any day you wake up, look around, and you're above ground, consider it a good day. So, I am. When you watch the episode, it definitely is like reopening a wound. You relive a little bit of it, and it is tough. I hate losing, especially so close to the end. I was glad the edit, looked good and didn't show me bawling my eyes out after a loss for like a solid couple minutes. It reopens it a little bit, but then also like those same emotions that we felt there, as far as like, we're sad for ourselves, but we're happy for Nerys. So we got to relive that too. We got to relive the excitement about watching Nerys win, and just seeing, how much seeing her believe in herself the same way that we already did is when something that you care about. It was really cool. And outside of the challenge, I feel like I do a lot of different things. But when the show's on and the conversation's going, and as a challenge fan myself, like I am in a lot of the conversations on like social media and even friends and people I'm talking to about the show. So it's like it becomes such a big part of your life, and it is still a big part of my life. And I'm thankful for that. Like I feel like, sometimes I know that, any of the contenders are so much more than just the show, but like it is really cool, and I'm thankful for every bit of it. So I'm feeling good.
Zoe?
Well, I was just wondering, so I want to jump into a question real quick, just because you brought up being happy for Nerys. I loved watching the way you supported the women on this season. I thought it was so beautiful and so cool, because I don't think that, especially throughout the history of the challenge, that's happened that often. I know that you are very aware of what people say about you on social media, and that you caught some flack about not always respecting the gameplay of like Tiffany and Hannah on Big Brother. And so was this something that like you were mindful of, or do you agree with that assessment? Was it something you reflected on?
Ooh, I like that. I like the deep questions. I feel like it's mixed, because on the one hand, I want to give, credit for constructive criticism that's helpful and where you can learn, but at the same time, I don't want to agree with something that I feel isn't completely true. And so I think about, I think with Hannah, there's like more conversations, and Chada is like, baby sister, like everyone Cookout, we're family. So I just talked to her, we were voice noting yesterday or 2 days ago. And I think she's probably one of the smartest people to ever play Big Brother, most intelligent people. So like, I feel like I felt super bad when my comment around her being interchangeable with Big D or other people got taken out of context, because even that was a comment that was much more about like in that decision as far as like a role in my game, not as far as their gameplay. So that was upsetting. And then as far as with Tiffany, I think that was definitely there was like a foot and mouth moment as far as like talk about her not being not being in a certain worth or representation or the exact comment, and which we've gotten to talk about so much more clearly as far as like the interpretation of it. But just a reminder to watch how you speak, because in the game, I think Tiffany's probably Cha's smart, but Tiffany's, as far as well-rounded, I think one of the best Big Brother players ever. I feel like that is, the strategy for the alliance, speaks for itself, kind of, that she, created and masterminded, and she even won competitions, and she's the first person to, have 2 back-to-back HOHs. And so I think that she, I feel like that's more me clarifying like some of the misinterpretations on that, because that's always what I felt like, even when I was with Tiffany. I mean, the only reason that we didn't end up it's funny, my biggest mistake on Big Brother wasn't trusting Xavier, it was trusting Tiffany, because I asked Tiffany at the end, who's better, you or Xavier? And she would lie to me, and she's like, oh, Xavier's better. Like, so, and me, you guys know how I am. I'm like, well, I want to take the best of the end. And she hadn't yet realized that I'm a crazy person who actually means it when I say that. So she was like, well, I can't tell him that I'm the best. So, and I was like, all right, cool. So I believe you. And then I'm watching and I'm like, no, I was definitely right in my first assessment that you were the best and that we should have taken you. But yeah, that is, so I think that, I guess, I think in general, like, and there's also clips of me, like, defending her against Big D and Xavier, and they were saying they weren't doing as much. So I feel like, I don't know that I agree with the premise as far as like not giving credit, but I saw what happened and where I got the flack. So I think that in general, that's something I've always been conscious of. And, I want to, work with the people that I'm close to. And I think that, and that game is so much more complicated in general, but yeah, I mean, I'm definitely glad, it makes sense here. But in general, I feel like I've gotten along. I grew up with 4 sisters. I have no brothers. So like, I think I get along with women well in like a platonic way, more so than a lot of people. And that was probably where that comfort came from, like me and Nerys getting so tight. And then some of the other girls in the house, and we had just powerhouse women in our house too. I think that was the other thing that just made it easy. It's like, yo, we want to partner with the best, and then we have, Melissa's in the game, and like we have the chemistry, of course, romantically, but then also she's kind of a badass player. Like, this was her 4th season, and her previous season she'd only been eliminated 1 time. Like, 1 time she got kicked out and then brought back as a mercenary because she was that threatening, and then the other time she was like finished climbing half a mountain after an entire season while pregnant, and then she decided to remove herself. So I think that yeah, we just had some powerhouse players, and obviously Zara and Raven with their daily wins, quite exceptional. So made it easy just because I like working with strong players.
Good answer. You have a lot of thought about your life, man.
I warn people because I feel like, and this is probably from the more I've discovered it, like very, from being on the spectrum, on the autism spectrum, as far as like a communication gap that I've had with a lot of people, even in the interviews when I'm in the confessionals, I'm always like trying to warn them. I'm like, if the question's not specific, I'm going to answer the question thoroughly. And I'm glad for that question. And it was very specific, more specific than most questions are, which I appreciate. But it's just funny to me, one thing I've observed is just the amount of times people will say like, "Hey, it's just a yes or no question." It's like rarely do people ask yes or no questions in a literal sense, and they think they do all the time. So, so yes, I say that as both a appreciation for your response and my response, and also a warning of like that's how I answer most things. So feel free to cut me off whenever.
No, I much rather let you speak your whole mind, all your thoughts. I've had some interviews before where people basically just said nothing and just.
That's what I'm saying. If you're sitting in a confessional and giving a one-word answer to these questions, you're not going to be on TV. That's just not how it works.
Look, I've done an interview before with someone who might be on the show right now who just told me you're going to have to wait to watch the season for basically every answer. So, I much prefer this over that any day of the week, especially when people are clicking on the content to see, oh, what did they say? All right.
I'm glad.
Allan and I have talked about how, like, we think that the challenge is your space, that Big Brother is fine, but, like, we're so happy that you transitioned to this show because of your attributes. So what was that first challenge call for Challenge USA? What did that feel like?
Well, it was really cool. It was also one of those things that was like, it was, what did I say? How's that call like? It was exciting, but it was a lot because that was also a couple months after we got out of Big Brother house. Big Brother is such a unique experience. I would venture to say most reality TV has some aspect of trauma to it, just because in competitions, especially because the ability to be observed and judged by so many people in such a unique situation, where there's an inherent competitive, side to it. A conversation that I often return to was, I remember I was saying with Derek X in the Big Brother house, and he's like, I just feel like everyone's out to get me. And I was like, because they are. That's literally what we're doing. And so while building the tightest bonds, or at least, Big Brother, the tightest bonds of your life, hands down, outside of family, pretty much, just because of the emotional and mental trauma that you're and connection and the time, isolation. I think, but so I'm in that environment, and that's actually where I learned about the challenge. So I wasn't even a lifelong fan of the challenge. I'm a massive fan, and became a quick, deep fan of it, but it wasn't longevity so much as depth, because in the Big Brother house, Xavier and Big D were talking about the challenge, and I was like, wait, what is this? What's this show? Like, I'd never seen it. I'd never seen the real world, never seen Road Rules, never seen the challenge, and was like, this sounds amazing. It's like competitions and physical stuff and all these things. So I kind of feel what you said, as far as like that sounds even like, I love this. This is a game that I feel so, good about, and but that sounds even more. So I was like, and they were like, yeah, it's, they've started adding Big Brother people, so maybe we'll have an opportunity to get into it. And it's like, you have no idea. Like, by that point we're talking like, how many Big Brother people they brought on? And it's like, I don't know, 5 or something. And we're like, okay, 5 out of the last 4 seasons, like, there are 300 Big Brother players. We're like, okay, that's not the best odds, but you don't know, but you hope. And I had a decent competition performance, the most comps from our wins from our season. So I was like, okay, I think I have a shot, but we'll see. And so I started preparing right away. I started researching, not super deep, because I was also in the post Big Brother haze of the whirlwind that is your life when you get out of that show, because it's all live. So it's like you're just cut off from the world all that time in the most isolated way that you can be, as far as any games are considered. And so I was reacclimating to life, so I wasn't able to go as deep until I got the call. And then so I started watching them because I was like, this is fascinating and awesome. And then the call came, and they were just very much like, hey, this is a newer show, a newer version, so make sure you watch. Honestly, it's going to be more modern, so I'd watch the newer season. So I think they had me go back just a couple to 30. I think they said 34, and I went back to 32 maybe and started watching. And had a very short time, like I said, to prepare. And So yeah, it was very exciting, but then also like overwhelming because I was new to that life. I think a unique thing to me that I do feel has benefited me in both inside and outside the games is that a lot of people in the challenge space, especially in a lot of the dating shows and all those, they start when they're like 18 or 21 or something. And I was 30 years old when I started reality TV. I'd already had 10 years in like the corporate world. And so I think that it just completely took my life in a different direction. And it still is. And who knows, it's only a couple of years in, a few years in, but who knows how long this goes, but I love it, and hopefully longer. So it was pretty cool.
How long do you think you're gonna be like along for the ride? I mean, like, because in my opinion, do as many shows, travel as much as you can, experience life while you can, and also, I just a thing I wanted to ask as well, like kind of two parts. How much were you training before and after starting doing the show? Because when I was watching on Big Brother, I was like, oh, this guy's good at comps. I didn't realize how much of a physical like athlete you are. Like, no offense, like I just
No, totally.
and I saw you at a club, I believe, for Challenge All Stars 3. Cyrus threw a party in LA. Or something like that.
Yes.
I didn't talk to you that night. I met you at a different night in LA.
Party.
But that night I saw you in person, and I was actually like, I didn't think you're going to be a good competitor until I saw you that night because I didn't realize how tall and how wide your shoulders were. I was like, oh, this guy's way more built than I realized.
I think by then I'd already started training. I think that was after USA, if I remember. I don't remember All Stars 3. I feel like it may have been after USA because I remember Nerese was there and she was telling me she was about to leave, I think, for Ride or Die. So I feel like it was after. I could be wrong, but either it was right after or right before. So I was training maybe a little bit bigger then. But I played football in high school, but like I said, Big Brother was 12 years after high school. So like I hadn't played anything since. I stayed in shape, my dad's always been into fitness. Now he is a fitness trainer. That's kind of his second career in life. My mom, is always try to pay attention to being fit. And I like competitive stuff. So I've done like a decent amount of Spartan races and such, but like not like this. I mean, I was probably not as intentional or as intense with the training until the challenge. But it's, whenever you have a goal in mind, like it's just easier to push into it more. And that's, I'm not a fitness trainer, so I'm not, I feel like that is quote unquote disadvantage maybe because I'm not in the gym 8 hours a day. I try and be an efficient person time wise. So, I even while training for like a show, I feel like I'm still not trying to spend more than like an hour and a half, including stretching at the gym or something. It's just about the intensity, I think, and then the outside study and training, the non-physical training aspect of research and puzzles and stuff. And I feel like maybe there's a first part to the question and jump to the second. I don't know if there was. Let me know.
How long do you see yourself doing these shows?
Oh, how long? Oh my gosh, yeah, as long as possible. Like what? How old is Mark Long? Like 50 something? Or Cyrus? Like I'm like, it's so cool. And my dad is, he just turned 60 last year. He's in probably better endurance shape than I am. Like he's smaller, but he's So I feel like I got the genes for it, and and I love it, and that's I love it so much. This is something that I would want to pay to do. And so to have this opportunity to be a part of the show, like, and do these fun games and also Big Brother is so emotionally and mentally traumatic that like, it's the best prep ever for the what's that called? Like Island Madness or whatever it's called, when the stir craziness that people have, you could feel like week 5, people are starting to like at the latest, week 5, a lot of people are like starting to get stir crazy. And I'm like, what? Like we were in Big Brother house for 3 months. Like, and we didn't even get to, I'm like, you guys, we get to go outside here. Like Big Brother, you get to go outside 2 days a week. And here we could go outside every day. Like we can just chill and we get, music on the butt. We get to drive places. Like this is summer camp. So it is so cool. And I think like, CT kind of made some good comments about like, you got to enjoy it. Like it's, not everybody's going to win every time. So, and I feel like I took that to heart as far as like, you know what, let me enjoy it. And I remember it having, I really do enjoy it. And I've had a lot of mentors and life experiences that pushed me to like find moments of gratitude and being present. And I was exercising that in the house. And so I feel like I get to enjoy it even more. So, I want to do as long as 11.
Okay.
I hope they go back to 2 seasons a year, or like like that'd be even cooler.
That would really stress me out. It would make my life. It would make my life better in some ways, but it would also make it more stressful.
There was a point we were covering the show for like a stretch of what felt like 10 months straight. Like it just never stopped.
Oh my God. It was much. Like we had like, I think a 20, like a whole year season. And then 2 weeks later, they dropped the trailer for the next season coming out in 2 weeks. It was.
Oh man. Yeah, I can imagine that being a lot.
It wouldn't feel as long though if everybody brought it the way you did this season. So.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you.
We should talk about this season. We should, let's talk about
this game.
It. All right. So coming into this season, they had, the whole one winner idea. How much did that affect, do you think, everyone's gameplay style? Where I think there was obviously the way people were targeting you and Horacio, because not only is it all the men are facing you, but all the women are facing you as well. And Zaza is also in that group where like everyone is just going after the biggest targets. And this season to me kind of felt a bit Big Brother Survivor-ish, where you kind of want to play the middle because everyone can kind of find their own path to victory. Unfortunately, you guys were the targets in this scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I think the format of the game made the season a little bit tricky because it's like a perfect storm of things. You have Michelle and Jay come in, they enter the door connected with most of the house, and just from entering the door, they'd already played with them. The connections that you have with playing a game with somebody is huge. And so, there's a point in the game where I remember I asked I had 8 different people one night at the club telling me that Michelle was their number one. And I was like, okay, all right, guys. Okay. Yeah, so many thoughts. And then the format of our game, like I said, with the champs coming in and the team structure and the elimination style all meant that in a lot of seasons, if you throw somebody into elimination multiple times, they're cutting numbers in the game. And in our season, Raven goes in, I go in, Big T goes in, and we're not, even if we win, we just come back into the house. So there was no repercussions to sending in the same people. There's no fear behind it because even as you saw, me and Rossi, if we didn't win, we were in the sand. And if we did win, then we had no say in who went in just because of the numbers. So it was really easy for a majority alliance to be able to. Majority just sounds underwhelming because it was literally me and Horacio versus every other male in the house. As far as the male side, which it still did, divide, I think, a little bit in male and female to some degree. But like you said, they were all worried about Zara because what a physical competitor, especially a runner, she is. So I think that the format of the game in general, not just the individual winner. The individual winner, I think, had more impact to someone like Azar. Actually, no, I think it had an impact to both because there is an argument to be made for somebody to want to have strong partners at the end. So they might want Amia Horacio to help them win if it's a guy-girl partnership at the end, or the potential of that, because I guess you never really know. And the same thing for the even on the guys, like maybe they want a Zaza around as a strong partner. But yeah, having one winner, I think, did highlight those targets even more. And then the format, like I said, with no repercussions for throwing people in repeatedly, is pros and cons, and or mostly cons, I think, for not just for me and Horacio and Zara, but also like some of the drama of the game, I think, may have suffered from having that format in place. So I think that those all played a role, And like I said, the pre-existing relationships, I think with the format made it play a different role than a lot of other seasons where pre-existing relationships in this game, unlike a lot of games, are pretty consistently going to be a factor. But I think that this format made that even more so.
It kind of felt like at the beginning of the season that you were not as far out of that group as you ended up being, obviously, by the end. Do you think that your relationship with Melissa kind of ostracized you from that group, or that there was more to it?
No, I think that was an excuse that was definitely used. I think that's something that is annoying in general, is like the amount of hypocrisy and cognitive dissonance and excuses that's being made in the game at various points. And they would say stuff like that about Melissa, but at the end of the day, it was like, as soon as they, saw me perform or we were working out or whatever, as soon as they realized I was a threat, they're like, all right, well, we have too many social relationships with Horacio, so we can't go directly at him, but, Kyland and Horacio seem close. So, and Kyland's the other threat, like we think he's a threat, and then just became more and more evident as we were playing. So, like I said, that was much more of an excuse. And then even and that's the thing, and that's very common, I think, for humans do this in general. We make decisions and then we rationalize them to people afterwards, or we rationalize them to ourselves or to people or to both. I think we see a lot of that in general at so many different aspects of the game. So I mean if I talk to look at Michelle and Callum. Like, it only matters if you want it to matter. And I think that's, if people will climb onto that excuse if they want to. And you can even look at, who's more likely to make an emotional decision between me and Melissa. You saw me and Tiffany were very close. It didn't change a calculated decision. Michelle doesn't have that reputation. So I think that if you were to worry about somebody, being influenced, emotionally, it wasn't me. And so for every single turn that you would have that conversation, it would just be, superficial.
Well, I mean, you even compare it to Mariah and James, and you see what she's like in her confessionals throughout the season, like ready to pop off, but not actually ever popping off.
Yes, and that's okay. And that's the thing, is that it's like I'm somebody that likes to step back and give an understanding. And I was like, I remember telling Mariah at some point, I'm like, hey, it's kind of messed up that they are giving you flack about James when you have nobody who you have this person because no one else is holding you as their number one. If you know that Horacio's and Jay and the other people that you're working with have other women before you, then yeah, of course you want a woman or a man that's gonna put you first as their. You want more people in the house that are gonna put you first. So I think it's very understandable. Just like it's understandable people want to target their threats, I think that I get it is, and everybody plays differently. I think that they have to play to their abilities. So I don't hold judgment on it so much. I hold a lot less judgment for the people who are limited by their abilities to play a certain way. I think that, and that's something where I do have a little bit more room where I'm like, okay, guys, yeah.
Are Mariah and James supposed to be a thing this season? I couldn't tell based on how many times she says in her confessionals. I'm rooting for James in this daily challenge. I really couldn't tell.
Yeah, I mean, me neither. And like I said, I understand why. And that's the same thing. I understood James. James, every time that he did what Mariah said, I was like, he doesn't care about that alliance. He just literally has somebody who is supporting him, and is keeping him safe. I think one of the few the only UK guy still around. And so he's like, you know what? I owe it to this person who's keeping me safe to do whatever she tells me to do. And he acknowledged, he's like, yeah, I mean, Zara's not far off. I am just her whipped puppy. And that's not normal for me, but I'm a survivor and I want to survive. And this is helping me survive. So, that's why decisions were made. And even after the votes, when he would vote me in, I was like, I get it. Your vote probably makes more sense to me than a lot of other people's.
So while we talk about people using the cards that they've been dealt, we've developed some pretty strong opinions and feelings about Jay on this podcast. So I'm really curious to hear what you think about Jay and his gameplay and just where you guys stand.
I think that Jay is. I don't think Jay's a bad guy. I think that Jay has become a villain in this season, and his resistance to taking on the role is probably hurting him much more than helping him. And I feel like you look at like I remember, I don't know if you guys watched Big Brother with Jag last season. I was doing interviews and I was like, as long as Jag owns up to his role, like he can win. And he's at his final speech and he's like, all of your blood is on my hands. My hands are drenched in your blood, like, because I sent each one of you guys home. And him owning it was what some people said converted them to vote for him, that they weren't. And I think that also, we see that with Wes. Wes is like, I have my goblet of power and I'm drinking off it and I'm getting drunk. And you have, Michelle, and I think even more so a Jay, who is, absolute power corrupts. And I feel like you see that, but you see him like not wanting to admit it. So I think that that's just making him look worse to a lot of people, rather than if he was just like, this is such a fortunate position that I'm in, and I have so much power, and it's awesome. And I guess, we are going to be the villains of the season, and we're going to eat up this power and hold on to it. And he's not doing that. And I think he's not doing that because, he has a chip on his shoulder from being the underdog for so long in his other seasons. Totally, I have a lot of empathy for that. But I feel like, with him and with other people, when they don't own up to that, like I've seen even Michelle kind of own up to like, yo, I came in and I was friends with everybody. It's awesome. And like, and then, having to, and then him acknowledging like he's maneuvering a bunch of stuff, and he's like, and he's not, you just have all your friends there, and that's great. And you have Michelle there to foster these relationships, and that's great. But like, you should just say that because you are good at a lot of things. Same thing I've said this about Emmanuel, like he's good at a lot of stuff, but right now I feel like he's been posturing like, hey, I'm still in the game because I am a masterful, player or whatever. It's just like, hey, like Jordan was going to take anyone out of that game besides maybe Horacio. I'd like to think myself, but I'm not even bold enough to say that. I'm not bold enough to say that confidently. But anybody else he's taking out. So Emmanuel's down there with Kieran. So I'm like, if you are in this game by the literal luck of the draw, then like if you acknowledge that, no one's going to take away the fact that like, most people won't take away the fact that like you're still good, you're still skilled, and you're humble enough to acknowledge that like you got lucky with that, you got lucky with your pre-existing relationship with Michelle, who happens to have this power dynamic, and you can hold on to both. So I think that's something that certain people like Manuel and Jay, and pretty much anyone under that care package, under that umbrella, is having trouble acknowledging because I'm going on tangents now because now I'm thinking about Colleen and Ed, and I'm happy to dive into those as well. But as far as the Jay stuff specifically, I feel like that's probably what's happening, and I feel bad because he, like I said, he's used to being this underdog, and like you have a puppy that's abused and now acting up because they've been abused, and I the only thing is I wish I like. There's times like, where Jay's yelling and I just kind of like, for the most part, turn the other cheek because I'm like, you know what? Like, he's sad and like, he's not a bad guy. And now I see like him popping off in all of these confessionals. And I'm like, my guy, like if I had known, maybe I would have, I wouldn't have been as concerned about hurting your feelings in the game. In the game, personal is different. But yeah, in the game at least.
It's hard to stomach watching the way he talks to you and Nerys at times and other people.
Yes.
And go back to those confessionals where he's like patting himself on the back, but then he's crying about being stabbed in the back by two girls when he had a vote in the same deliberation. Like, it's just really exhausting to watch. It's just like pick a personality, pick a role, decide what you want to be.
And I didn't know that was happening. Sorry to interrupt. I
Yeah.
feel like that's exactly what I'm saying. Like I think that's what's been frustrating is like I wasn't there for a lot of those conversations. So like to see him like, you caused this vote. It's like, how many people voted in that, including you? Like what? And yeah, I think that was frustrating. And they had a lot of very easily gullible people outside of basically Horacio and Nerys. So like they could tell them that. And they could be like, oh, I guess it is my fault. But Nerys is like too smart for that. So she's like, no, you guys voted too. What are we talking about? And but there's no support because she is Michelle, who's good with words, and then everyone else who's kind of making dumb decisions. I don't want to call them dumb people, but making dumb decisions. And
I'm willing to call them dumb people. I'm willing to call them. I'm willing to. Some of these people can't read. Some of these people can't do basic addition. That's not even me like saying like a wrong thing. I've watched the show.
Yeah, you don't have to say it. We'll say it for you. That's totally fine.
The answer was 37, and Asaf tried to multiply 83 by 34. That's not happening. That's just not.
And math is math. You can't say that's anything about a different language. Like, that's just math.
That's what I thought. How are you guys speaking factually? Stop it. The internet hates that.
It depends. Ooh. It depends who you're speaking factually about.
True. Yes, exactly. Very true. Let me take that back. I shouldn't say the internet hates that. The house hated that because our house hated that. You just had so many people who was like, that's not even a little bit like. I think it was. I had a fun time. Like I remember Michelle one time was talking about like, well, I didn't say her name. It's like, yeah, but if they ask you what name can't you say, and you list all the names of mine, that's the same thing. And I think that most people in this house may not call you out on that, but I'm not dumb. Me and you are both, I'm at least close to as smart as you are. So you can't say that to me just because everyone else nods along when you say it. I won't. So it was fascinating to watch people who, like I said, didn't even seem like dumb people, but just doing dumb things or accepting dumb responses. And that's, even going to the that very last deliberation, that was my issue with Jay. Like they didn't even show. Me and Jay have a whole back and forth at that deliberation because he's like, I never wanted this to happen, and I'm like, bro, then why didn't you do something about it? And he like is having a fit, and like TJ calls him out and is like, you're crying about it and stuff, and it's just like, but what did you think? TJ says, what did you think was gonna happen? And I was like, yeah, what did you think was gonna happen? And he's like, oh, well, Corey was gonna save her, and it's like, okay, who's gonna save Corey? Like. I've mentioned before in interviews, we tried to get Nerys and Horacio's uniforms as well. Now, we didn't know it was going to go down that way it went down. We thought Olivia would be last in line. But we did expect it to be us three. So we tried to get their uniforms, but they just weren't washed yet or something. Like we couldn't get them from production. So that's why I was like, when he said, he's like, oh, I didn't know it was going to happen. It's like, wait, like, just because you have it written down, if we know that those people aren't going to make that decision that you write down, like Colleen, Emmanuel, Byrne, like they're not going to follow that list. Like we know this. So just because you wrote it down, it doesn't mean that it's true. So like, did he want her to go in? I agree that like on some emotional level, he didn't want her to go in, but to suggest that you thought that your plan was going to work either would mean that you're being dumb or insincere. And both scenarios, you have the ability to prevent your friend from going in and you didn't. And so like, just own up to it. It's like, yeah, you know what? I failed to do the thing that I'm saying was important to me.
Yeah.
But
it works right
you've had a lot of J thoughts you've ruminated on, you've needed to dish on. That moment though, too, as well. When we did our interview last week with the three of us, that was a mess. Like 15 minutes. It's just like I had a whole list of things, and I'm like doing math in my head, like that question's out the window, that question's out the window. So I got to hear Horacio's thoughts on the whole Olivia thing, which is, no offense, people want to hear their relationship more than you and Olivia's relationship. But you're still part of that moment. You're still part of that group where if Olivia had saved Nerys, then she saves Horacio, then he saves you. That completely just changes the game. It also changes, just Olivia's entire life on social media right now.
I know. It's hard because it was I think that the hardest part about it, a couple of layers, because it's like, I had to backseat my feelings about it, both when it happened and after it happened, because of exactly what you said. Like, Horacio and Olivia are ride or dies. And Nerys and Olivia are like super tight best friends. So, but then like in hindsight, I was like, why am I so hurt? And I was like, oh, because I was the closest person to me when I walked through the doors of this house. Like, even if I wasn't as close as those people, even though I knew you as your number two, like you were my number one because I didn't know anybody else when we walked in the house. So I think that's why it was like such a intense, betrayal kind of across the board. But I benefited from not being quite as close as Horacio and quite as close as Nerys, to where like it hurt. It was my deepest wound that I had from the season, but it wasn't as deep as theirs because they had that deeper connection. But yeah, I think that, like you said, on social media and everything, because it's like, like how badass it would have been if Olivia was just like, hey, you guys know that I told you guys I would go along with what you said, Michelle and Jay, but I got to protect my girl. I got to give it back to Nerys, who just saved me 2 days ago. And then he saves Horacio, and then me. And then all of a sudden it's like, and also like her other friends that she was close to in the house were Jay and Michelle, who are already safe. And then I would have saved James and Mariah at a moment's notice out of the people who were left. So no matter what, like all of the people she was close to were still safe, and they had nothing to offer really. So like, that's why I was kind of like, hey, like, you know that once they said your name, you could do whatever you want. Like, you could actually do whatever you want and no one could stop you. And not only can no one stop you, but there's no repercussions because we're at the end of the game. So I think that was the part that she did, to her, to her credit. Like, I'm not going to overcredit it, but to her credit, she realized that. She realized it was a mistake. She does try and ask, as you may have heard, I don't know I think we mentioned in our interview or other interviews, like she did try and, after the safety chain was completely done, ask TJ if she could switch places with Nerys and she'd go into elimination with us. But they were like, that's not how the game works. So like, you cannot do that. But I wouldn't call it insincere. I think that she meant it, but it was too little too late. And that, doesn't, you tear a piece of paper in half and you tell it you're sorry, like it doesn't fix the paper. So the wounds were made, and it sucks. And it sucks because it just sucks all around. It's not just bad for us, it's bad for her, like you said. And so it just was like, but who knows? Maybe she'll be rewarded for that loyalty in the next season, and Jay and Michelle will keep her safe as a result. I guess we'll see. They've been really good at that so far, at rewarding people like they did Ed and Colleen, except they didn't because they kept sending them in. But, maybe they'll change the corner and do something different with Olivia. We'll see.
Thoughts right now on Ed and Colleen, because you've been hinting around it. Especially like, look, Ed, super nice guy. We did that interview, but it's like you having to do those interviews with Horacio and then him also there when you guys had such different games. And like in our interview, Ed even says like, oh, I wish I could have played a Lone Ranger type game. It's like, no, like it felt disingenuous to me because obviously all his actions say differently. Because I feel like he was completely content with just being part of the ride. Like, what are your thoughts on him and Colleen? Because you definitely have some.
I do. No, Ed, I feel the same as you described. Like, I like Ed. I think that it really did feel like Ed was just not being himself. Like, he really, I think, found the safety and comfort. And, and now he's engaged. Maybe he was thinking like family, like thinking, you know what, I got to play it safe. And which, like, completely respectable in its own right. Even if it's not how I play personally and how I view these competitions. But, I guess for me, it's like TJ said, what type of champion do you want to be? And I think that his actions went one way, which I do feel is different than who he is to his core, especially because he is such a great, well-rounded competitor. So that was the craziest part, was that like, it was disappointing, the vote when he won, because he walked down to that deliberation when we had the stalemate. He walked down and was like, I'm just going to vote for myself. The numbers are already there. And I was like, Ed, shut your mouth. That's not where they are. Like, I've been hustling. We have the votes. Like, it's not going to be that way. And he's like, oh, okay. And then obviously, we have the stalemate, and he does take action to keep the stalemate, or well, either way, he was safe because of the votes that we rallied. And he says, hey, I'm not going to forget that. And I think I interpreted, I'm not going to forget that, as in like, I owe you one. I guess he just meant he's not going to forget it. As we found out by the actions, he just meant that sentence and nothing else was meant by it. Maybe my bad for interpreting it wrong. But I feel like that was wild, because then you see he's saved, and then he's like, well, let me just save all of the people who voted me into elimination twice and just put in elimination the people who voted to save me. And it's just kind of like, and he was talking about the reason, like, I did that, they did that for themselves, not for him. But it's just like, that's not how favors work. Like returning somebody's favors, because these people acted actively against you. So regardless of if we acted for you, whatever the motive, we acted for you, and these people acted actively against you or directly against you more than once. But yeah, like I said, his reasons, varied. And I do really like Ed as a person too, and I think that typically he probably might be different in the game. But yeah, so that was definitely that's what I was saying. What's crazy is then he gets purged, and when he gets purged, he says afterwards he's talking about how I think a lot of people are probably relieved that I'm not going to be in that final, and I was like, the craziest part about that is it's very true, because he's a well-rounded competitor, but the only people relieved are all of his alliance. Me and Horacio and Aris don't care whether or not you're there. Like, we feel good in our skill set, so like, we don't care whether or not you're there. We love to have you. All of your alliance is happy that you're gone. So that's my Ed thought. I don't know if you have a pause question. If not, I can jump into Colleen.
Get her.
So, and the other thing with Colleen is, I kind of made a comment earlier. I feel like you have to play the game and adapt the game for your skill set, for your skill level. Colleen is a small person, like a small girl who's not, super physical. And wouldn't, as we saw in the mini final, she wouldn't stand a chance against a lot of people in the final. So she does need that final field to be limited. Because I think there's something to be said about, like, for all of these games, Survivor, Big Brother, and the challenge, I don't think it's enough to get to the end of the game. I think you have to get to the end of the game with a chance to win. Otherwise, I don't really, because, people can be dragged to the end of the game. It happens all the time in all three of those games. So, so with that in mind, if you're Colleen, you got to try and take your big shots, especially if it's an individual winner. I think that she maybe suffers a little bit from the Jay thing, in the sense that she doesn't own up to her actions, and she will say, like, hey, I didn't do anything snaky or whatever. And it's just like, wait, you can't be like, I'm the mole, and then also like, I am not doing anything shady. It's like, hey, people do shady stuff all the time, and that's okay. You just own up to it, and then you own up to that role, and that would do you better. I think not even just in her confessionals, but also in her one-on-one conversations with people, she has trouble owning up to it a little bit, and maybe lots of reasons for that. But for me, actually, which does apply to a lot of people in the alliance, is that the reason why I'm hesitant to give her decisions credit, a lot of credit, is because they didn't make a difference. So like back weeks ago when she's like, I want to shake up the house, I want to make a decision. We don't have the numbers, I'm just going to vote with the majority. It didn't move her up in their alliance. They still kept her at the bottom. And then they did it again. And then they did it again. So it's like, your move didn't do anything. So thus I can't say like it was a good move. If you're still in the game, for sure, but you're not in the game because of that decision. You're just in the game because of the format and the relationships and everything else we already talked about. So I think that that's where like I draw the line, is like, like that would be smart if we were in a game where that actually had any impact at all, but it didn't change anything.
A lot of luck.
Are we into the Kyland opinion portion of this? Because let's just let's just.
Well, I mean, like, here's the thing. I asked that. That's a question. Like, I feel like yes, this is an opinion, but I feel like it's an opinion backed with reason.
Yeah.
And if somebody has a counter, I'm sure maybe Colleen will watch this and has a counter, but like, or any Colleen stands or whatever. But it's just like, but then what would have changed then if you did that vote?
Yeah.
At what moment would that have changed something? Let me know. Where it would have changed something, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, you know what? Good move for that. Like, it could be a good move. It just was irrelevant in this game.
For sure. I meant more like let's ask your opinion on some more people. Like let's get some more Kyland opinion. Like at this point, it's like let's have some fun. Like let's have some like.
All right, let's do Manuel, Corey, where we go?
No, I don't want to be rude like Berna. So let's talk about Berna.
Please.
I mean, I did talk about Berna, didn't we? See. No, I mean, did I tell you? All right, I tell you about Berna, the hotel room, like her. This is how I said. All right, let me finish this. When I think about Berna, she is, as she says it in one of her confessionals, she says something like, I'm not mean. Everyone just keeps interpreting me as mean. Something to that effect. And I was like, wait, that's not how humans interaction works at all. That's not, that isn't a thing. It's mind blowing to say that. And, she gets, she is abrasive and negative and you see her friends say this. So I don't think she's a bad person at all. I think that she is, abrasive and can be rude, but I don't think she has a bad heart. But I do feel like she does that because she acts out that way. I feel like because she is unhappy, and that's something that I'm not. This isn't a backwards compliment or anything like that, or passive aggressive. Like I genuinely have faith for that, and that's why I had so much patience with her because I had a lot of respect. I'm like, she's very talented. She's, she's on Survivor Turkey All Stars because she is talented. She's good at a lot of things. She's skilled. But she's unhappy and she pushes that around. And the story that comes to mind, I think, kind of highlights, I think many of us know people like this. We're in a hotel room for 2 days before we go into the challenge house because we have to take press photos and all that stuff beforehand, or cast photos. And the hotel's in Croatia near the water. Outside my window and most of the windows is just trees. There's trees or hotel building or whatever. I remember I walked past her room, and outside of her window is this stunning, picturesque view of the water and the boats and the sunset and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, Berna, this view is so nice. And she's like, yeah, but it just kind of seems like wallpaper. So it just kind of drives me crazy. It's making me stir crazy. Yeah. And I was like, okay, yeah, I guess let's find the most negative interpretation thing that we can. So I think, we saw that with Michelle and her and the bed, all the situations. So I feel like she is the architect of her, of her own unhappiness. And I did try multiple times to reach out kind of in compassion of that. And then I ran out of that. And so then I was like, you know what? The soft touch isn't working. Let me try and be more direct here. And then at that point, she comes in my face. I don't, get into her face. She approaches me. I don't move. I don't even feel like I approached her. I think there's something people said about man-woman dynamic. I'm there with Nerys. I have somebody, I'm not one-on-one squaring off with her or anything. I'm raising my voice less than she is. So I feel, I didn't say anything that wasn't true. So I don't think it was, like I said, I didn't say she's a bad person. I said she's rude because she says rude things and she says, I'm not kind, directly in the conversation. So I don't know what to say beyond that. Yeah, she's talented and she gets her way. And CT actually, in his documentary that they just put out, he kind of says similar statements. So I feel pretty validated.
She's a magnet for conflict. I think any other season she wouldn't have lasted that long just because people wouldn't have been able to tolerate being around her. I think that in the real world, we often have people in our circles that we find everyone around us treating them with kid gloves and trying to make sure they're okay and dealing with their negative personality traits. And you make excuses for it and you tolerate it and you kind of work around it. And that happens in the real world. And that's what was happening to Berna on the season because of that alliance and how they basically used her as a number.
Yes.
Hearing the word social and political game has to be frustrating. You're when you're getting thrown in over and over again. And then you have Berna, who I would say is just playing an awful social political game from all superficial elements, but just getting protected by this big alliance.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. It is. And it's one of those things too, where it's kind of like I said, people will find excuses for anything. So it's not the order is very much aligned with what I said, like the real reasoning, like the order, they want to get out me and Horacio. Like we're of this season, we're decent threats in the final. Ed was at the bottom of their list because he's a decent threat in the final. Like Nerys, Zara, same thing. Like they have reasons they articulate that just have nothing to do with the fact that they're afraid to run a final with people. And their confessionals say that's what was interesting is during the game how often they would talk to our faces and just be like, like even off camera, like, yo, for the record, like I'm not afraid of you in the final. Like that's not why, it just sucks that things turned out this way with the house dynamics and all these things. And that's why I just was like, there wasn't any amount of politicking that was going to change the way that these people were playing. And I feel like that is, I think it's evident with the decisions that they make. And I feel like that's it. There's one specific person that I was thinking about having reasons, having rationale. I don't know.
Is it Emmanuel or Corey?
It's general. There is something about. I would say that's also one of the reasons why I actually do get along with and like Corey. So many reasons socially, personally, I like Corey, but in the game, even me and him get into it a few times, but I was quick, in conversations to say like, hey, I have never said that what you're doing isn't smart. It just when I say scared and smart are not antonyms. Like you can just. I like that. Outside of that, I did have to call him on that one comment. He's like, "This is the bravest thing." I'm like, "Well, it's not brave, but it is understandable because." And he was very upfront. He's like, I don't want to run a final against you guys. So I want to run a final against Horacio. I want to run against you or Zara or whatever. And he was very upfront about it in the house, on camera, off camera. And I think so that's something that I do respect and I appreciate. I'm like, hey, like as long as you're owning up to it. And like I said, you get, and so you have to play your game up to your abilities in a certain way. And that's going to be different for each person. So I think that's for me. It's just like the excuses, like when people are making excuses about stuff. I'm like, all right, guys, like let's just call it what it is, and that's okay.
Corey does talk in hyperbole a lot on Twitter and in the game. Just to I want to say not I think a lot of the times he's not wrong, but it's just the hyperbole that makes my job really easy as someone who's can make fun of people on Twitter. Where Corey's I played a flawless game, and I'm like, well, I think the week he got thrown in was a little flawed. I think that was when everyone would you win. That was a little. Was that part of the plan?
Yes. Yeah. And that's why I said it's easy. When someone does somebody dog or something outside now, but maybe it's not allowed for you guys. Am I tripping?
No, you heard something.
We can't hear it anymore though.
Okay, cool. Another thing about Corey that I will say is they'll give him flowers for it is the that one vote. That's liberation. He paints this huge target on himself, and then he does a really good job of pulling himself out of that hole, solidifying his relationship with Michelle in the Queen Bee's good graces, so that she keeps him out of the line of fire. It was an effective move. And that was something that I'm like, you know what? When moves make an actual difference, that's why I'm like, let me acknowledge that. But yeah, he is very dramatic, and he knows that, and I think that's why it's funny and in real life we get along well because he knows he's dramatic and sassy, and and I am not. So, and I also not as much.
I don't know about that. That's actually kind of what I ask you about.
Oh, tell me.
Okay. Because I think there's two fans of Kyland. There's fans of Kyland, the competitor, the guy who studies the game, the guy who wins these mercenary eliminations, which, I watch the show. Badass stuff. I'm someone who loves the drama of the challenge. I'm someone who likes the mess. I'm someone who likes that maybe you have a history hooking up with some people on reality TV. I'm someone who likes that, you throw a shady comment at someone, wait for them to blow up, and then you have a grin on your face. Be honest. Do you have fun with the drama? Do you enjoy it?
That's a good question. I feel like I haven't
Yeah, you do.
thought about this.
Competitor Kyland wants to say no so bad. Competitor Kyland's like, no, I care about the game so much. I'm a student of it.
No, but I feel like the competitor also part of, that is part of the game. And I think part that like I wasn't paying attention to as much. Even when I went back and was watching seasons, I would just pretty much just watch eliminations and challenges and skip all of everything else. And it's funny because I've been watching more clips from more of the shows, more of the seasons, going back and watching actual like house dynamic stuff. And it is funny to see, how certain some of those moments and even like when I say part of the competition, part of the game, one thing I think about is how me and Horacio feel confident in our abilities, and we also feel like we want to approach the game from a strategic, like competitor standpoint. So when Corey was like, "This is a bold, brave move because I'm throwing in a strong threat into elimination," we were like, the reason why it's not brave is because we are not going to retaliate by coming after you. Like, you're not now our target because you threw us in. We are still going to make the more less emotional decision and not go after the person who took a shot, but go after, or like, somebody throws you in and you saw Rossi, it's like, after my performance today, this is what I deserve, sort of deal. And, or like me, it's just like, hey, like, I'm going to play, I'm not going to hold it personally against you. And I've kind of noticed that sometimes when people hold it personally against others, that for some people is a deterrent in itself. They're like, a lot of people aren't thinking that strategically about, it doesn't actually make sense long term for that person to come after me. I feel like they don't as we've seen, a lot of short-sighted thinking wouldn't think about that. So I'm like, okay, maybe if we make it much more emotional, like, hey, actually, I am upset that you throw me in, so I will come after you, then that could be part of, maybe that's a different approach that we should be taking. That way, it is a deterrent in itself. So I think that, there's something to that. And then on I will say, even to go deeper into the drama side, what you were talking about more specifically, like, I'd say that, my ability to, the fact I'm not very emotional. I am sensitive, but I'm not very emotional. So pressing on, my opponent's emotions, knowing that when they say the same thing, it doesn't hit me the same way it does then, in a competitive sense, can be entertaining at times. But since I can do that very unapologetically at times, when I feel like I'm justified, like the thing with Xavier, for example, I was like, you know what, I didn't say what I should have said. I was something disrespectful. Let me dial that in. Let me apologize for that. Let me own up to that accountability. But then other things, like I said, this season, I'm like, no, I said exactly what I meant, and I meant what I said, and I stand by it. And even when we rewatch it, I feel the same way. So since I know I can cut deep, I try not to do it often. But it is something that it's a skill set that I don't I'm not I'm not bothered by it too much.
And we love watching you get under people's skin, and then like there is something so funny watching someone get so riled up, and you're just sitting there grinning at them. It's
yes, I have a big sister, so it's a honed skill. Yeah, it's funny because actually my older sister, she's like a very high qualified like family social worker therapist, like sex therapist, sex behavioral therapist and stuff. And she, she does consulting for like sexual education for, families and children. And so she spends a lot of time working with families in very intense conversations. And she has the ability to regulate like the emotions, stay very even keel for everything. And one of the first times I hung out with her and her husband, my brother-in-law, and just how quickly like I could get under her skin. He's like, this is amazing to watch, because he's like, she is never yelling, always keeping her cool in all these very intense situations. And then within seconds, she's screaming at you. And I was like, I don't know. I could just learn how to hit those right buttons at the right times, especially when we get close to people. So it's it can be fun.
makes it more exciting for us to watch, that's for sure. And
I'll try and keep that in mind.
It was overdue with Berna, so thank you so much for that, because it was about time.
Oh, so are you babysitting for Asaf anytime soon? Like what's
Oh man, my thing about Asaf that did bother me, one of the things was that afterwards, like, because of my Big Brother experience, I was like worried. I was like, you know what? Maybe I didn't deliver my words perfectly. Maybe I said something that was disrespectful, and I feel bad about that. So I went to apologize to him for that. And then I find out afterwards he's talking to other. I don't know if he did in the confessionals, but he's talking to people. I see him in interviews post show, and he's like, "Yeah, Kyland came and he's kissing my ass, and stuff." About me. I was like, I was just trying to be nice, just trying to be respectful and accountable, and because I just in case I said something that was disrespectful to your family. Once I watched it back and saw that I said exactly what I wanted to say, and it wasn't disrespectful to your family, I was like, oh no, actually no, I don't have an apology for if for some reason. I've told him this. For some reason, if his wife feels like she was disrespected, let me know. He has my number. Let me know, and I'll happily apologize to her. But I don't have apologies for him, and especially when I see that behavior afterwards, because I'm like, all right, my guy, I just tried to extend an olive branch and kindness, and you accepted it, falsely. And I think that that's cowardly and disrespectful, and especially because I'm on, you can see with Jay and with the Asaf, and I'm not messy, and so I'm not on social liking tweets that are talking about Jay's hair, talking about Asaf in whatever ways. I'm because I think that's unreasonable. That for me personally, I think that's each to their own. But I'm I don't pile on in that way, and so so then to see someone else taking these sort of being less gracious in that way, where I'm extending you a lot of grace and kindness, because I thought there's a respect here. So I that's what that's at. Like I said, if his wife feels a certain way, he has my number. But outside of that, it made it hard to feel like that his positive things were genuine when I see his behavior afterwards. So I don't know. I don't know if I don't think I think most of these people aren't bad humans. I think that he's a very good dad. We saw him, he would talk to his son and stuff all the time. And, but yeah, as far as person maturity and all that, those are different conversations that I don't care to have.
Yeah.
I think it's lazy to oversimplify people into good and bad, period, especially
Definitely
on reality television. You guys are in such a tough position, being shown a very edited version of a very long time. So I think there are bad people who do many good things, and I think there's good people who do bad things, and I think there's a whole spectrum in between there. So it's never that simple.
I agree.
Plus, he has that sick 3-on-2 daily challenge win that he could brag about. That was pretty cool.
Oh my gosh. When I tell that challenge took them so long, and there were 6 pieces in that puzzle, and at the end when they find watch I think TJ made comments afterwards that they didn't show about this is the worst puzzle performance I've seen in the show, or something. He had some sort of commentary on how ridiculous it was that they took so long to figure out this puzzle. And then, like you said, the 3-on-2 was my guy. Let's not be excited about that. And that's where, and it's, I don't know. I feel like that's why, me and Rasa get along, because if we're talking about eliminations, we're going to tell you about, all the ways that all the luckiness of it. Yeah, she's yeah, we prepare, we work hard. But Rasa's yeah, but I was with Kenny and he was newer to the physical aspect of the game, and not, or I was with, we had the help from the crowd for that one or whatever. Or somebody's shoe fell off, or he's and me and Darrell have this balance thing, and Brad, was like, oh, so we all. I think that's my issue is when people go the other way with it, when they're just like, this is how amazing I am, and that's like my issue with Emmanuel, because it's like Emmanuel is like someone who I think is good at a lot of things, and he's clever. Like we would talk about certain eliminations and challenges, and he would have good ideas. He'd be like, I think I would approach it that way, and I'm like, that does make sense. Like that's a clever idea, and then. But then, he's still in the game and he's on social, talking. And like I said, I like Emmanuel and I have a respect for him. But then it's harder when he's like, I'm in the game because I'm the best. I am so good at everything. And it's just like, my guy, like you have a history with Michelle, so she's keeping you safe. Jay feels like he could beat you, so he's keeping you safe. Like you are actively not making, you are not making active decisions in the game, and that's okay. You can be really good and just acknowledge, I'm super lucky that I'm here with Michelle, who's keeping me safe. I'm super lucky that there are bigger targets than me. And I'm super lucky, like I said, that I got the luck of the draw and Jordan didn't take me out of the game in the very first chaos elimination. So you can acknowledge that without taking away from your skills if you were to choose to. And I think that everyone would I don't know about everyone, but me, I think that from a competitive standpoint, it would be more honorable to just acknowledge it. And that's okay.
But that's a matter of security, right? Like you have a level of confidence and security in yourself, as does Horacio. And while I think Emmanuel is a great competitor, and I think he's done a really good job of flying under the radar, especially in regards to his own alliance, he's not a political mastermind. He's along for the ride. But you guys can do that because you're not insecure about your abilities. But when you are insecure about your abilities, you start peacocking. That's what they're doing. I'll say it, you don't have to.
He's a performer, though, so that's probably part of his habits. He's a very good dancer.
Had many ladies enjoying his dancing skills in the house, I heard.
Oh, man. Wait till the reunion. Whew. Surprises in store.
Oh, boy.
Zoe, what do you got for Kyland?
So while you've been watching the challenge and studying up, I have two parts to this question. Is there anyone that you're dying to play with that you've watched? And is there anyone whose style or abilities you've seen that you feel like it would benefit you to emulate?
Ooh, okay. Love both of these questions, both parts of this question. The dying to play with is, I guess, hard or easy to answer depending on how you look at it, because it's everyone. Like I love the game. I want to see everybody. I think that I'm such a fan of the challenge and of the challengers. So it's been bittersweet to it's really cool to be a part of something new with the CBS and to play the game with all these gamers. But and these legends in their own right, in their own shows. But we didn't, season 1 didn't bring in the vets to the USA until season 2. So I wasn't there. And then when I went to MTV, it's like all the vets are gone except for the eliminations. So in the eliminations, I was such an awesome experience both to play and to watch them play. But yeah, so I want to play with all of them just to I always think of I'm a big Dragon Ball Z fan. It's like Goku. It's you want to play against the best. He's standing there. He's like, oh wait, you need to charge up and recover. Okay, I'll wait for you to charge up and recover. That way we can have the coolest fight ever. Just because it's fun. And so I think that things I want to emulate, to a certain degree, for sure, the competitiveness of Jordan, in terms of just as a competitor. I think that me and him might relate on that level because I know him and Horacio relate on that level, and that's very something similar that me and Horacio connected on. And I think about I think Rivals 2 reunion. Jordan was talking when that's the one when he threw himself in, and he was just like, hey, yeah, it was if it worked, it would have been really cool. But it didn't, and it sucked. But at the same time, he's like, my goal of this game, I can make money anywhere in life. I can figure out how to make money. This is about something different. It's kind of like I said, TJ said, what type of champion do you want to be? And I don't think it's wrong or right. I think it's just a different perspective. and just something I relate to a lot. Zach Nichols and his podcast, he had a great comeback. He's like, I think that, you you lose to Jordan 5 or 6 times in the final. You may want to have him sit one out. You'd be like, you know what? How about you're not there one? Let me get this win. They'll come back. I haven't experienced that. I'm sure that there's credence to that. Like if I did experience that, I might feel differently. I haven't experienced that yet, so I don't know. But yeah, so I think the competitiveness is Jordan in that way. You got getting to do physical competitions with like a CT or Darrell, and Johnny has 7 rings. Like you can't knock it. To a certain point, there's only so much you can say, and so and then obviously the women of Mount Rushmore in Cara and Laurel, like I feel like when I think of emulating, to your second point, like I think the competitiveness of Jordan figuring stuff out, and then the well-roundedness of like a Johnny. Like Johnny, I think one thing that I really like that Bananas says in his interviews is how he'll say like, I'm not the most athletic or smartest or whatever, but I'm just I think that these challenges are showing that I'm really good at doing a lot of dumb shit. And like, I kind of feel like getting more experiences and doing different random things, because there's just so much you can't prepare for. Like you can prepare as much as you want, but like you can't rebuild that, that balance thing that me and Darrell did with the flamethrowers. So you can't rebuild those walls where, no matter how much rock climbing you do, it's not the same as punching through drywall for each step. Like those games have not really come down to climbing ability. There's a variety of things there. So there's just so many different types of skills that like you can't prepare for. So I love the versatility in Johnny performing there. And then obviously, you have the strategic moves of like a Wes and Devin, and and CT just has so much wisdom in the game, obviously, the GOAT. And like, yeah, I feel like there's so many different I think of, sorry, I'm probably thinking of too many things. But if anything stood out that you want me to push more on, let me know.
I love that you listed all these names, and they're all very authentic answers. But there's a name you're not saying that's just your crush, like a Melissa. Like, oh, yeah, that's who I want to be in a house with.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was one of my favorite confessionals where you're like, oh my God, I was watching Total Madness and I fell in love with her.
I mean, you saw her.
I agree. Like, how like people like they look different on like photographs, they do video. I was like, oh my God, how does she look like that on video? She looks like an Instagram filter on video.
Really, she does.
She's like,
and like, I've seen her muddy and without makeup, and like it's still impressive. It's crazy. So
Zoe?
I want to do like a little bit of a speed run with you, which means you will have to answer quickly. And
okay. See, you're giving me parameters. I can try my best. I will try, and I can do it to some degree.
And we're gonna bounce around to some different kinds of questions. So some are gonna be challenge related, and some are not. And I just want you to answer as quickly as possible. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. What's one thing that you didn't have in a challenge house that you wish you had?
What don't we have that we wish we had? More movies. Like on the weekends, we get to watch some, not every weekend, but sometimes we'll have Saturday where they'll let us watch like a movie or a couple movies even. It's like a day off sort of deal. And our selection was very limited.
What did you guys watch?
What did we watch? We watched like, I think we did Wolf of Wall Street, which was awesome. And like Shutter Island, and a few a few other randoms. I can't remember. Finding Nemo. I think we had Finding Dory.
This is supposed to be a speed round, but I was told by another cast member that Kyland and Horacio are the most annoying on movie nights because they're so.
Oh my God! Is this Michelle or who is this?
Look. We're not
You
saying
guys-
we're not exposing people on this podcast.
Annoying. We're the least annoying because we don't like annoying people in the movies. We want to just first off, we don't have loudspeakers most of the time, so we need everyone to just be quiet or find another room. So it's like this, we have such a limited time here for this experience. It's a true little escape from the game to watch this movie. And some people want to talk. And then my favorite was Michelle came in while I think we were watching Pirates or something. She boycotted and was just had a large stance about like, we shouldn't watch this movie. We should watch something else. We eventually caved in. We put on what she wanted, and then she got up and left. It was the biggest power flex of the game. That was her biggest power flex, and it was kind of hilarious, and I love her for it. But it was, yeah. So anyway, but no, we had people that would just talk, and we're like, guys, you can talk anywhere in this house. Just let us watch this movie. So I feel like we're the least annoying people for that reason, but it depends on why. Yeah.
I'm on your side now. I got your side. All right. So in your next question.
Okay. No, I'm glad we went on that tangent. We love tangents here. Who received most of your calls home?
Ooh, probably Derek X. Derek Chow from Winner of the Amazing Race. And he's like probably like my best friend from the reality space, and like we just become a real friend in real life. And it felt like his experience because he did Challenge USA with me. He did we did Big Brother together, and he's just become like a little brother to me in real life. And it's easier to talk to him because he has context of the people, context of what it's like in reality TV show and the games. So since we have such a limited amount of calls and they're short calls, it's like quicker to catch up. So I did get to call my mom on a couple of occasions, but usually I called him because we could discuss more quickly and efficiently.
Bird. What's your zodiac sign?
I'm a Cancer, July 13th.
All right. One guilty pleasure food that you have.
I mean, either donuts or pizza. Actually, no. Okay, so pizza, yes. Love pizza, especially like the square pizzas, like those ones, the square-shaped pizzas.
Sicilian pizzas.
Yeah, Sicilian. And then sweets, actually, there's an Oreo Pizookie at a place called BJ's Brewery, and they're like a chain, and it is delicious. They have a regular Pizookie, like a pizza cookie, like a skillet cookie, but their Oreo Pizookie, phenomenal. Vanilla ice cream, so good.
Look, we're both from Southern California here. BJ's Brewer House, always a good meal, always a good time.
100%.
Top tier sit down chain.
Yes. Pizza and cookies there, honestly.
Noted. All right, what's one country you want to visit?
Japan. I love skyscrapers and skylines, and I've heard that it's just a sea of skylines in Tokyo and some other cities and other cities as well, but that's just one I've heard about a lot, so I'd love to see it.
Right. Who is the funniest person that you've played with?
Funniest in USA, Tyson from Survivor, so funny. And funniest in what's it called, in MTV was actually James. James Edit is doing him dirty. He was easily the funniest person in our house, and they don't show him crack a single joke. And he had me cracking up most of the conversations.
I actually heard a clip of Mariah saying that the other day, and I was like, "No, you're just defending James."
No.
All right, I'll give him a little slack now because I've been calling him a dud for weeks.
Yeah, they did him wrong. He's funny.
What's the last show you watched besides The Challenge?
What's it called? I started watching this new season of Traitors. I haven't seen season 1. I'm watching season 2. I'm one episode behind, but like I know what happens, obviously, but I really am enjoying it. And then I rewatched. One of my friends hadn't seen Devil's Plan, so I was showing them that as well on Netflix. It's a fun one if you haven't seen it. It's a Korean show. It's like Big Brother-esque kind of competition where they just brought a bunch of like smart people together to give them challenges. So they brought like researchers and scientists, and I think there's a politician or some like YouTubers that talk specifically about science and stuff. It's a fun watch. It's on Netflix. I'd recommend Devil's Plan. And Physical 100 on Netflix, if you haven't seen that. Another fun one.
Okay.
I saw that one. That was quite good.
Yeah, quite good. It's funny because one tangent on that. My dad, like I said, he's physical. He likes drama even less than I do. So he doesn't even, he's like, can you just send me clips of your eliminations and challenges, please? Like, I don't want to watch anything else drama related. So I remember I just was sitting with him. He was showing me Physical 100. He's like, this show is the best made reality competition show. He's like just absolutely shitting on anything that I've ever been a part of. He's like, it's so good. They don't have any of the drama or the politics that you have to sit through that terrible stuff. And I was like, fine. Like, it was, but it's good.
Did you ever watch back in the day on G4? Did you ever watch the original Japanese Ninja Warrior?
I probably saw clips on G4 back in the day. Like I would have watched it randomly on TV, like what came on, not like consistently, but no one like I remember. But I was definitely, a fan.
That stuff was like, I can't watch the American version. It's like very slow. It's just they give like 20-minute interviews of like, this is my life, this is my background. The Japanese, they just do like you gotta do the obstacle course in like 100 seconds. Like 100 seconds.
The speed yeah. Oh
yeah.
Man.
That was electric. That's like right up your dad's alley.
Yes, you're right. That is another, yes, exactly. Yes. Wait, more speed round? I like this.
Oh yeah. If you got to listen to like a hype song before an elimination, what would you put on?
Oh, okay. I'm split only because. Okay, so I'm a big J. Cole fan, so I love Middle Child for some reason is like a song that gets me hype. But then also there's this other song that's in the Black Panther the movie trailer called Legend Has It by Run the Jewels. That one's the hype song for me, probably because of that connection to Black Panther in that first trailer. I actually used to watch before my interviews for Big Brother. They would say like, "Hey, get yourself hyped, like listen to the song," and I would watch the trailer to like Black Panther or like watch like a clip from Captain America wielding Thor's hammer. Like I'm such a nerd, so like that stuff would get me hype. But yeah, those are two hype songs. However, one more song tangent on the bus. I think I posted on social. Maybe you saw on the bus. They would let us pick a song each to play on because they were long drives usually. And every single time, because they didn't let us at the beginning, they started it a couple weeks in where you could pick a song. So every single time I picked Many Men by 50 Cent because it's like the chorus is like many men wish death upon me. And that was like the theme of the bus ride. And me and Frosty would crack up about Jay because there's one line where he says, Slim switch sides on me, let people ride on me. I thought we were cool. Why you want me to die, homie? Like, so that became like the running joke. Like, probably was just like Many Men. Yeah.
I wish they would bring back bus footage on the challenge though. Honestly, that's a different tangent, but I really wish that we could get bus footage back because there's some moments that happen on those buses.
Exactly. And they were like, hey, we'll take off. They were just like, you guys can't talk about game on the bus. You guys can't, we're giving you assigned seat. They basically created an assigned seating chart to keep anyone who would remotely either game-wise or romantically be interested in each other separate. And we're like, why not just bring on the cameras and let us sit wherever we want? Like that feels like such an easier solve, but
so many iconic moments have happened on those bus rides.
Very true.
Whatever. Okay, one name. Best competitor left in the game.
Nerys.
Worst competitor left in the game.
They're all bad. They're not all bad, but none of them are very good. I'm like, who's even there? Gosh, I mean, I don't even know who's there. That's what I'm trying to remember. It might be, I can't even, most are not very good.
I mean, that in itself is a good answer. I know that you didn't directly throw anyone under the bus, but when you call them all bad, that's something I can accept.
They're all underwhelming. They're all very underwhelming.
That's it for my speedy questions, unless, Alan, you have a couple you want to tack on.
Yeah. Who's the strongest human in Dragon Ball Z? Is it Tien or Krillin? Where do you land on the debate?
Wait. Oh, I guess human. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, the strongest, like not like person from Earth.
Yeah. I mean, probably Krillin. I feel like he has his moments. I feel like he has enough moments that he has pulled it out. And I think the family dynamic gives him that little extra push when he needs it. I think he's died more times, so
He's very clever.
probably.
Very clever.
Yeah. Yes, it's fair. Yes.
This
I
is
like
hilarious because I've literally changed my Hulu password for people watching anime on it before.
Wait, what? Why?
I'm a
Why?
hater.
Wait, what about like news? Like, did you watch Invincible on Prime? Check out that. It's not really anime. It's kind of anime. It's like a modern American anime style.
It's a comic book show.
Yeah,
It's from the creator of The Walking Dead.
Yeah,
Like with like real life people.
it's animated.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right.
Stephen Yeun from The Walking Dead is like the main character voice.
Even Yen, J.K. Simmons.
Actually, you know what? Don't watch it because it took them like 2 years to release the next season, and they split it up into like it's an 8-episode season, and then they gave 4 episodes, and like you got to wait another 5 months again for another 4 episodes.
That is frustrating. That is very frustrating. I really, especially because these first 4 episodes, they're good, but I'm like, you guys are gonna have to finish strong for me to feel like this was worth the wait. But the first season, phenomenal and animated. And then if you go anime, anime compared to real life that I think everyone's liked, One Piece. Did you guys watch One Piece? Either of you?
I watched One Piece. I watched probably 100 episodes. Because I watched it on Toonami growing up. I have not watched the live action adaptation. I wasn't a big fan. I'll be honest. I wasn't a One Piece guy.
I get you.
I've been a Dragon Ball Z Naruto guy. Like I'm a big Naruto guy.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm sorry, Zoe.
Just check it out.
Me and Kyland are so Southern California coded in like just culture and like we could do a 2-hour podcast just him and I talking about like California food and anime.
Oh yeah,
and like we could do a whole thing into it. So
have you ever been here, Zoe?
I have been to California. Yes, only a couple.
Southern California, or Northern California.
I went out to San Diego last October.
Nice. Okay.
And met Allan out there. We went to a Challenge Mania event together.
I
was there to see Nani, and she didn't show up because that's. Oh,
I'm sorry. Okay.
You know,
it's like, right. Nani, I've met like 3 times, and like very briefly, and she was drinking all 3 times. But I was with Casey on TikTok, and Nani came and she's like, "Oh, it's Kyland." She's like, "Oh, so nice to meet you." And I was like, "It's fine. It's okay."
Yeah, that'll happen.
No, exactly. Yeah. I was no. I mean, Nani is a legend in longevity. So I'm by no means insulted. Like, you know who I am. It was just. I understand you in getting sad sometimes around Nani.
Yeah, we're big time Nani. We're big time Nani people. I mean, her especially.
Well, and that's part of why I love Nerese so much. She reminds me so much of Nani, especially when Nani.
Okay.
And we love Nerese around here. Like
Nerese
has been my girl since the start of the season, and it's only my love for her has only grown. So yeah.
I'm so glad because I didn't even know. I've never watched dating shows, so I didn't know about like I guess historically she said she gets hate and like bad edits and stuff, and like when I say bad edit, like she showed me her first like some episode from her very first show, her introduction to reality TV. The very first episode, they show who's now her best friend, Dee, like hook up with this guy, and then they show immediately after like Nerese basically tries to steal him, and she hooks up with him, and then but. The reality that they both told me is that Nerese hooked up with him first, and then like weeks later, that girl hooked up with him, and they for some reason edited the story that way because of how the relationship ended up. So from her very first episode, she had a drastic negative response due to a lot of people talk about editing, and like I'm mixed on that because sometimes it's I'm like I don't know about that, but this was a drastic story change in her. And so I guess she's had a lot of hate historically on social. And so just to see people get to see, and I don't know her in the past, but I know her now, and she is as phenomenal as you're thinking. And I am so glad that people are seeing that.
Yeah, I've loved her since Are You the One? Straight up. Just I just think that she's a star. I just think she's a star, and she has a magnetic
She is. She
So-
is.
This
And I'm
isn't
one
a
of those,
yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm one of those people. If people are nice to the people I love, then I'm like, all right, you're on my team. You're on my team. You're on my team, and I'll ride for you too. So
Hey, this isn't a spoiler, but more good stuff coming in the next coming weeks. Like for Nerys, like she truly is a
Absolutely.
star, and like so I want to say Nerys is still very young, but like I've been covering reality TV since 2017. That was the year she started on reality TV too. Like
Wow.
like I was grinding, creating content, creating stuff for years to where like eventually I broke out in my small scale type stuff. Nerys has now come here with me, and it's like, wow, we're old now, like compared to like because like we've been at this for a while, but I'm just so happy to see her get her flowers and like because she deserved it. Like she deserves this moment. Like she's been working so hard and just always stayed consistent, and it's beautiful. Also, just a random fact, she was born in Maine.
Yes.
Fucking how did they get a Dominican in Maine? How did they get a Dominican in Buffalo where Donnie's from? I don't know what the hell's going on there. That's just the funniest thing. Like, how is Nerys from Maine? That just
Yeah. That's good. I don't even know how they ended up there. That's a good question.
statistically, not likely. I
There's-
say for Vermont.
there's 12 people in Maine. How they get Nerys in there?
For reals. And it's like twice as many people as are in Vermont, I think.
Oh, more than twice. There's like.
One of my
600
other friends is from Vermont. That's why.
What'd you say?
One of my other friends is from Vermont.
Oh my God.
I don't remember which city. But yeah, they just told me how small it is.
Yeah. No, there's one city in Vermont. It's
It's
Burlington.
fair.
But we don't need to get into a tangent about Vermont. It's not exciting to anyone at all, especially statistically. Unless you're a Noah Khan fan,
True.
I guess.
It's good.
Yeah. The fact that so many people have saying the word Vermont gets me excited. That's actually like there's a song that has the word Vermont in it that is like that people know and sing out loud. Like that is what we get excited about here because
No, fair.
All right, we've taken a good amount of your time. Before we end, though, is there any last thoughts that you want people you want to say, or just want people to know about Kyland?
Oh, I mean, about me, nothing specific. I feel like nothing I haven't said on the show and on the ending. If people want to find me or ask me, I'm on social, Kyland Young, Instagram, Twitter. Well, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube is all Kyland Young. My TikTok is Kyland.young. I'm live almost every day there, so I try and answer as many questions as I can. And, I'm competitive, so I like to do the battles on there and just have fun and connect with people. And so, yeah, I mean, I love connecting with people. Any of those spots. I have a podcast that we did a first season and then we took a hiatus, and now we're actually getting ready to release the second season, Connections with Kyland, just random conversations about connections in people's lives. And then a little tease I'll say is like me and Nerys are working on something very challenge specific, very our season challenge specific, with a company called AfterBuzz that we're very excited about. So I'm teasing it out, just that way people could stay on the lookout for that very soon. And then, and those are things that come to mind. And I want to give you guys credit too. You guys hustle. You guys are giving me this time first off. I appreciate it. And then also, your guys' show, all of your content, Allan, obviously on Twitter, just very consistent. I know that's a lot of work, and I just want to commend you guys because it's really cool to have voices that are so passionate about the show, and I know it's a lot of hard work, and you guys do a really good job.
Thank you. I'm going to give most of the credit to Allan there. I just show up and talk.
Hey, it's easier when it's people like you on the show who are actually doing stuff on the show versus some others. So, like, so I tweeted this out last week. Like, I think this season has been a success because you could see how angry and how sad people were with last week because, like, people actually care right now in a way they haven't in a while. Like, I've been tweeting about the last few seasons, and at times it gets tough with some of these cast members because we get all these new faces where I thrive making fun of people. That's my element. But I don't like to be mean.
Yeah.
And when I have like knowledge of a competitor, when I know their history, it's easier to make fun of them because it comes from like a place of care and a place of authenticity. Whereas on these recent seasons, some people have been too boring to make fun of, or like it comes out as mean. Whereas with you guys right now, like I'm hitting a point where like I can make fun of someone but still really like them in some ways.
No, and you do a good job. I think you walk the line well. Yeah, I think it is entertaining. I'm glad that you guys could rally behind us. It's crazy how I'm trying to think of seasons that have had, just as people have said, like hero villain. Like I don't know which seasons have had this much of a clear cut, like where people are interpreting that as hero and villain. And I want to be humble and like not call us heroes in the story, but like I feel like definitely there's times where there's underdogs. Like last season, Horacio and Olivia are underdogs, but like there wasn't a villain and hero sort of dynamic. And I feel like few seasons have it that where it feels that stark, and this season is. And like I said, I don't call anybody villains as bad people. It's just as more how it's playing out as the characters and dynamics. It's like the Rebels and the Empire. I think that we have a little bit of Rebel alliance here that just took a major hit, but we have a new hope in the Reese, so we'll hope for the best.
Sure will.
Well, it's been great having you. Make sure everyone to follow Kyland. I mean, you probably do follow him already. So Kyland Young on Twitter, Kyland Young Instagram, Kyland_Young, like you said, on TikTok, YouTube, all of the above. Modern day legend. He already has a lot of accomplishments on under his belt. But hopefully more comes, and hopefully one day a challenge champion.
Maybe even season 4.
Let's hope.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.